Hi, Glenn here, and I just wanted to share some short, unscripted thoughts prompted by a video that I published recently. I haven't set out to tread on toes or offend people, but there is a phenomenon that I notice a lot, and I just wanted to highlight that. I published a video recently called Advice to Christian Debaters, and I had intended to be short, but it was nearly 40 minutes in the end. And it was just some general principles about how I think we should approach public conversations and debates, as well as some factors that I think other Christians should weigh up as they decide whether or not this is something that they really ought to be engaging in. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it was some food for thought. And I think the video seems to have been generally well received, certainly being viewed more than some of my other videos, which isn't a major achievement given that it's quite a small time channel. But I wanted to highlight the fact that there are three identifiable categories of response that I was getting to that video, maybe some other things as well, but in the comments I definitely saw at least these three. In the first category, I got responses from people who were at least theists, but I think generally Christians based on what they said about themselves, or based on what I know because I've seen these people around in social media, and that was generally positive feedback for the most part. People saying, "Hey, good advice. This was sound. Appreciate it," and so on. And well, that's always nice to receive. The second category was similar, but these were people who prefaced their comments by saying that they're not religious, they're atheists, but nonetheless they thought that the advice in the video was good for anyone, whether Christian or not, going into these sorts of discussions. I assume they don't mean all of the advice because at the end I placed quite an importance on the role of prayer in approaching these things. But I know what they mean, and I certainly appreciate the comments. But then there was this third category of people who were popping up and saying, "Hey, good list, but let me use your list to piggyback on my own pieces of advice." And those pieces of advice ended up being about how Christians do so badly in public conversations and debates, and how Christians need to change the way that they do it. Specifically, Christians, or at least theists, need to change and stop making the following kinds of arguments and need to start making good arguments. And if any Christian is tempted to use this sort of comment or argument, I won't consider it. And in fact, they're a jerk for doing so. And or hey, great advice. I especially liked the thing about you said about needing to know your stuff. And let me add to that by saying that I'm an atheist who really knows his stuff, and all the Christians that I debate don't, and it's embarrassing to see how badly they do. And you can kind of see this pattern. You'll notice that in the video, it was just general approaches that I think are good for everyone who approaches public debates, although I was talking to other Christians, and obviously it applies specifically. Um, but you notice that there were no Christians who appeared in the comments saying things like, "This was good advice, but let me now add some advice that specifically applies to those dumb atheists who make bad arguments." There was nothing like that, but there was this subcategory, not all atheists, of course, a small minority of atheists, in fact, so please don't get me wrong, but this subcategory of atheists who popped up saying, "Let me piggyback on your advice by pointing out how dumb some Christians are in the arguments they use." And obviously that had nothing to do with the purpose of this video. That was their way of slipping a partisan platform under my platform. And I think it does just highlight the very toxic element that exists in online atheist debate culture. Now, within the culture, obviously, again, I shouldn't have to say this, but I do want to say it. Most atheists online are not like this. They're just ordinary people. But there is this specific subcategory of atheists online who do this, and they don't really tend to use their own platforms to do it. They often use other people's platforms to do it. And I just wanted to shine a light on that. It's an observation that I made, and it's something that, look, I don't find very helpful, and it surprises me that there are people who might otherwise be intelligent who think that it is helpful or a wise thing to do.